Good afternoon, and welcome to the December 4th regular meeting of Council. The City of Parksville recognizes the people of the Coast Salish Nations and their traditional territory upon which we gather with gratitude. Before we begin, I'd just like to remind everybody that Christmas is coming, and to that end, we have cookies, carols, and more. So we're excited to host families, friends, and neighbors this Saturday, December 9th, from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Parksville Community Center on Jensen. Please join us for live entertainment, holiday music, a sing-along, cookies, coffee, and a hot chocolate bar. They had me at cookies, by the way, but we have so much more. Activities for kids and families, a visit from Santa, and a holiday backdrop for pictures. So should you wish, donations of any non-perishable items will be accepted for the Salvation Army Food Bank at that time. Everyone is welcome at this free event, and we look forward to seeing you there. Moving right along, Council, we have a consent agenda here before you today. Do I have a mover and seconder for the recommendations on the consent agenda? Moved by Councillor Gore, seconded by Councillor Beal. Any discussion, any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you. And for those in the audience, we have Councillor Wood is attending by Zoom today. And so I can see him in the console right in front of us. So we're at full staff or full attendance for council. So great thing. Councillor Beal. Oh, he's behind me. Is he behind me as well? Councillor Wood is everywhere. He's watching you. Thank you for that, Councillor Beal. We have the consent agenda passed. We have 3 delegations today. The first delegation we have is the Mount Arrowsmith Biosphere Region, sometimes known as Madbury, regarding the Brant Wildlife Festival. We have a presentation by G. Sakaki and M. Hobkirk of the Mount Arrowsmith Biosphere Region to provide an overview of the Brant Wildlife Festival and the benefits it brings to the City of Parksville, and to seek financial support for the facilitation of this festival. You have 10 minutes for your presentation. Thank you. There you are. Come on up. And have you been up here before? The microphone has a button on the second one from the right. And if you turn that on, the red light will come on. Everybody will be able to hear you. You got it. First go.
Super. Well, thank you so much for allowing us to be here today, Mayor and Council. It's an absolute honor. We'd first like to start by acknowledging the Coast Salish territory, which we're meeting on today, and thanking some of our support friends from the Mount Arrowsmith Biosphere Region who joined us in the audience today, Chief Kalma, Liz, Carrie, Blaine, and Kim, for being here with us. We're here to talk about something I think that you're intimately familiar with here in Parksville, as with it being the Brant Wildlife Festival. And I'll let my colleague Mandy begin things. My name is Graham Sakaki. I'm the Regional Research Institute Manager for Vancouver Island University. And my colleague with me today is Mandy Hopkirk. She's the MABR coordinator for the Biosphere region itself.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Graham, for the introduction. So I'm just going to begin by briefly going over the Mount Arrowsmith Biosphere Region, as this is a new organization that's going to be facilitating the Brant Wildlife Festival. So for those who are unfamiliar, the Mount Arrowsmith Biosphere Region is a UNESCO designated biosphere reserve. It ranges from Nanoose Bay to Qualicum Bay, and from the top of Mount Arrowsmith down 300 meters into the Salish Sea. We work to connect people with nature, which is why it made sense for us to take over ownership of this longstanding Brant Wildlife Festival, which ultimately is a spring celebration of nature. A brief history: the Brant Wildlife Festival dates back to 1991, where the idea was formed by 2 Oceanside residents as a way to not only engage people with nature, to develop a more appreciation for nature, but also as a new venue to promote the area. For 18 years, the festival was spearheaded by the Mid-Island Wildlife Watch Society, which then dissolved in 2006, and assets were transferred over to the Nature Trust of British Columbia. the Nature Trust of BC operated out of their Vancouver office with support from a community facilitator, Carrie Pesey, who's here with us today. And their vision was to one day bring the festival back to an organization that had boots on the ground who could run it more intimately. So the Nature Trust of British Columbia then approached our governing roundtable, providing a delegation to see if we would be interested in taking over this festival, and in which our governing roundtable, which the City of Parksville is a member of, unanimously agreed that we would take this on. The festival is important for a number of reasons. Just a few of those are that it promotes community engagement and knowledge sharing within the region, and it celebrates the incredible biodiversity and the natural spaces that we're so fortunate to have here today. Looking forward to the 2024 festival, which will be our first that we're facilitating. This is happening April 5th through 8th, 2024. It's a condensed 4-day festival. So we're optimistic that this will allow for increased visitation from folks outside of the region. And we're gonna make sure it's a really great jam-packed event that everyone can participate in. So this is the draft, but on the slide on the screen here, we have the draft schedule of events. So this is our 4-day festival. We're hoping to add more events to this, but just to give a rough idea of what it will look like. And in 2023, the festival engaged over 3,000 people. So again, we're hoping to, if not meet, increase that number moving forward. And this slide shows our supporters. So for this historical festival has had immense support from a variety of organizations. And this list shows event organizers as well as partners and 2023 sponsors. And I'll pass it off to Graham to talk about sponsorship.
Super, thank you, Mandy. So we do have a sponsorship package available, and I think it's already been provided to the City of Parksville, but there's 5 different sponsorship tiers ranging from $500 at the lowest level, which is the herring tier, which is still an extremely important species, all the way up to $7,500 as at the brand tier, which is the highest amount of sponsorship or donation. Some of the marketing benefits that are included with sponsorship include social media, and currently the Brand Festival has 1.3 thousand followers, or 1,300 Facebook followers. Sponsorship advertisement on the website as well. Sponsor boards at the various events that are underneath the Brand Wildlife Festival, and a thank you section in the Parksville Qualicum Beach News. We've currently secured a couple sponsors from the current businesses in Parksville, but we're just starting to launch that in help with the 2 chambers of commerce. Some of the benefits that we think are there for Parksville are increased visitation and regional economic development. Hoping to draw in this year a little bit higher level of visitation based on the 4-day condensed schedule rather than a two-week, which has been in the past. And again, this is during it's not in peak season, so it's during a time when we think that the Oceanside community can handle the extra visitation. Celebrating and raising the profile of Parksville's natural spaces. And I think this is extremely important. And I think that a lot of people who live and come to Parksville is because of these spaces and the way that Parksville's long-standing been taking care of nature and interacting with nature. Opportunities for businesses, ability to provide more visitation from customers through some of our campaigns. Opportunities for collaboration and engagement with different conservation and stewardship groups, the local First Nations, youth, businesses, the 2 chambers of commerce, tourism association, and then different levels of media as well. Further along is engaging youth in conservation as well. And I think the biggest part of this is the Wildlife Children's Festival, which launched last year, which was able to draw, I think, 800 students. And then ongoing beneficial relationships between the Mount Arrowsmith Biosphere region and the different partners involved, including the City of Parksville. So over the last many years, the festival has been sponsored mainly or funded mainly from a few different organizations. The Parksville Qualicum Beach Tourism Association, which helps with all our media and advertising, the town of Qualicum Beach, and the City of Parksville as the main sponsors. And then Mid-Island Co-op has provided a small amount of funding every single year. This year, we've applied to the Wildlife Habitat Canada for another injection of funding, and then sponsorships and different donations. And I think in front of everybody today, there should be a draft budget of what the revenues and expenditures that we assume are going to be for the Brant Wildlife Festival that you're welcome to look at, and I'm happy to answer any questions about. And then finally, the ask. So for quite a number of years now, the city of Parksville has provided $5,000 annually to the Brant Wildlife Festival. And we're thrilled to ask for that again. We are also hoping that potentially it could be raised to $7,500. The costs of advertising and everything else have gone up significantly over the past decade. We are hopeful that this can be allocated within the next annual budget. But if not, potentially looking forward to the next fiscal year to increase the amount to 7,500. With that, we'll end our presentation. I'll say thank you very much to Mayor and Council for allowing us to present and listening through this, and we're open to any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mandy and Graham. Great presentation, very clear and concise, and I appreciate that. And as you mentioned anyways, Graham, that there's a budget line item that we have already allocated for the Brant Wildlife Festival, $5,000. And so we don't have to reintroduce it every year, which is thanks to the previous councils before us anyways made that happen. And just to let you know, as with everybody, that our budget is under sheer attack, as of late, for extra costs and so forth to be provided out of our budget. And so we're very mindful of the extra costs that everybody's facing. City of Parksville is facing a number of those extra costs as well for just with our day-to-day operations. And so we're very mindful of trying to, we're taxpayer tax funded. And so we have to keep that in mind at all times anyways, what is necessary and what is nice to have. And so it's a tough road we walk, but I do appreciate your presentation. I'll leave this open to comments from council. Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the delegation. And I want to thank Mabry and you guys for all the conservation efforts in our region. I have a question about grants. Have you looked at grants from the RDN or other conservation grants, let's say like Nature Conservancy of Canada, Habitat Conservation Trust? Have you explored those opportunities?
Thank you. Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Gore. We have explored other opportunities and looked at different opportunities. We don't have a not-for-profit society. We're not a formed society. So all of our applications roll through Vancouver Island University, which is our overarching organizational body that manages our finances. So we don't have the opportunity to apply for some grants that other societies might. With that being said, it's definitely something we're looking at considering for years to come is incorporating into a society that can apply or be eligible for some of the funds that we're currently not eligible for.
You good? Thank you. Any further questions from council or comments? Councillor Beal.
Thank you. Thank you through the mayor. First and foremost, I would like to thank you for the presentation today and also for the very succinct printout that provides some really good information. I just want to, you're taking over a fantastic festival as it is. I know that I personally have enjoyed attending many events over the years. So nice to have those dates. I can put them in my calendar and I look forward to seeing what comes this year. So you've provided the information. It's timely because, we are looking at budget, as the mayor said, and also appreciate that you're thinking ahead to whether it's not this year, then perhaps we could consider it going forward. So thank you again.
Any other first questions? No. Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you tell me about the amount that Qualicum Beach is contributing at this time to you folks? And the reason I brought up the regional district of Nanaimo is they have grants. And like you mentioned, the wildlife area stretches all the way from the News to further west to Deep Bay or Bowser. Yeah, so I would recommend that even RDN should be contributing annually to this festival. And hopefully that can meet the shortfall that you guys are experiencing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question, and through Mayor to Councillor Gore. We did do a delegation to the Regional District of Nanaimo for general funding for the Mount Arrowsmith Biosphere region, in which some of it can be allocated to the Brant Wildlife Festival. It was an ask originally for $18,000 annually to support a number of different initiatives. And then the question about the town of Qualicum Beach, well, nothing's confirmed as far as I don't believe, or I hope I'm speaking appropriately. I don't believe that there's a line item confirmed, but last year was 5,000 and we're expecting the same. It got put forward by their council, but we are doing a delegation task for 7,500 as well. So they'll be getting asked the same thing, but we assume that the commitment of 5,000 is going to be there regardless of what our ask will be, if not more.
Yes, and further on that, confirm anyways that the RDN representatives here at the table right now will check in further at the RDN level to see if there's any ways of recognizing the fact that you're not a society. But you already see Councillor Wood nodding his head. I would send him a text right now if I was polite, but I'll be speaking to him afterwards. And so we'll be checking that avenue for you, so you rest assured that we will look into that to see if it's a possibility as well.
Thank you.
That's great. Is there any other questions, Councillor Grams?
Thank you, Mayor, and just through you to the delegation. Thank you today for coming today. I was fortunate to be able to be at the delegation at the RDN in my capacity as an alternate, and appreciated the background you gave on Mabry there. That was very helpful to get an understanding of what all you're doing. And I'm very pleased to see this festival come kind of home to a local organization and raising the profile of the Mabry and the work that you're doing and the unique biosphere we're living in here. In terms of the funding piece, I think you're on the right track with even though you're not a society, with working with local businesses to get support there as well, because for business, can be an advertising write-off, even though you're not a society. And then I might also encourage you to take a look at some other avenues locally. We have the Parksville Qualicum Community Foundation as well, which might be an avenue to go for funding as well.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate your delegation here. What I find that's going to be very helpful for the biosphere is involving children. And I know that that is the plan, more children to be understanding about the environment and what we're doing here. So thank you very much. Great presentation. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Council. Mandy and Graham, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers. Our next delegation is from the Access Oceanside Association, AOA. Request for provision of accessible beach access at Parksville Community Park.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Welcome.
Thank you. So thank you to Mayor and Council and to the staff for support in allowing us to come here and make a presentation. So my name is Ralph Teachin. I'm Secretary Treasurer of Access Oceanside Association. Been working for many years in this area, trying to remove barriers for persons with disabilities or not able to get around as easily as many of us are. So I'd like to jump right into it. Most important is that this is not a new topic. This has been around for a long time, this discussion. I took a look at the Community Park Master Plan, last revised in 2018. And indeed in there, the parking has been made available, but there's a nice statement there that the vision is now to have access to the water via a ramp and series of mats across the sand using wheelchairs or walkers. So it's a vision in the plan. There were actions put behind it. And of course, the overriding one is to create an accessible park for everyone in the community. And there is a conflict, though, that we have a conflict that what we are asking for is to go across a natural environment. So the goal of the plan was also to protect the natural environment and waterfront. So there we see that there's some work to be done. It has to be done, I think, by experts, but with good advice from both the community and staff. So in the plan, there was an action item, number 31, and I don't know how many there were. I think there was over 70 or 80 action items, many of which are being addressed right now. The developing an accessible or beach and water access was in there as a medium-term item, medium term being defined as 5 to 10 years. So we're talking up to 2028. The cost was listed as moderate. I think the problem that we have is that we don't know where this stands in the plan. That's our greatest concern. Talking about the barrier, these are my photos of the beach taken on a nice sunny day, not like today. So the first barrier is soft sand, very difficult for people navigating with wheelchairs and walkers or unsteady on their feet. The rocks are a tremendous barrier, and altogether it's about 30 meters across the whole length of the beach that acts as an impediment for people with mobility concerns to get to the hard packed sand. That is the desire. There are ramps. There's a very, to me, a mysterious ramp, which goes out from the boardwalk, a concrete ramp that ends precipitously. It was once covered in logs. Now it's bare. I don't know what the original purpose of that ramp was, but I think it is a hazard for people in the area. I don't know if the original purpose was to provide mobility and if erosion took care of removing the access, but it's an issue and it's a concern. There are 2 other ramps. They look like they are designed for wheelchairs, but I call them ramps to nowhere. They end in soft sand with logs and all kinds of other impediments to accessibility. The other thing that's a barrier here is the fact that the beach is not accessible to persons with reduced mobility. And the barrier, it's a very emotional subject. It's a big difference between I can't go onto the beach versus I don't want to go onto the beach. The choice has been removed for people that don't have the ability to cross these barriers. And what we're asking is for the action to be taken to remove those barriers so that people can make the choice. And it's not just people with wheelchairs or walkers. It's also families with young children trying to get a stroller across the area or with a wagon to get onto the beach and spend some time during low tide on the beach. There are some solutions that are in place in different beaches around us. Rath Trevor Beach advertises their beach access ramp, a concrete ramp that goes out, I don't know, maybe about 50 feet altogether, and it ends with a 7-inch step down onto the beach. I think this is due to erosion. There's also quite a few rocks in the area, so it's not an easy thing to get across. So there's some concerns there as well, and I guess we'll be taking it up with BC Parks. What you see a lot of in the area are these Moby mats, the blue mats, which are recently being installed by Nanaimo at Neck Point Park at Finn Beach. It's also been at Departure Bay Beach for many years. And normally these mats are being put out on a seasonal basis during the summer months, but they're used all over the region. Also in Mackenzie Beach in Tofino for that they've built a wooden ramp to go across the first barrier. And then in the summer, that ramp connects to a Moby mat or beach mat type thing that crosses the soft sand and allows people with mobility concerns to get across and enjoy the beach, hard-packed beach. This is also a topic in many other communities. I came across this article on Gabriola Island. They have a proposal to get mobility access onto the Descanso Bay Regional Park. They have no beaches that are accessible right now. This is a proposal. They're working with the RDN. So we'll see where this one goes. A bit more involved. Beach chairs is also part of our request. It's one thing to get onto the beach, but there are persons that would love to be able to go back into the ocean and have a swim. In Prince Edward Island, they use these beach chairs, which are available on the beach, just standing there. Anybody can use them. And they go into the water and they float. And the person can enter the water safely and exit the water safely with or without supervision. In Tofino, they have 2 surf rider chairs that are available to be borrowed from the visitor center. It's on a request basis. You fill out a little form, send it in, and then you pick up the chair from the visitor center. I haven't seen how small they collapse, but they are apparently able to be transported in a car, in the trunk of a car. And the most elaborate system that we came across is in Greece, where of course they're famous for their beaches. And they took up the mobility concern very seriously. And a local company, together with the university, developed this kind of beach track system, which is in place in over 200 beaches in Greece. And so anyone can request access to it by going onto their website. They get an access code. They punch in the access code, and then they can use it themselves, and it takes them into the water. They can have their swim, come back out of the water. There's even a shower structure so people can come out and use the shower. So very advanced. But I'm not sure that that's the kind of thing that could work at our nice shallow beach in Parksville. And we've stalled. There we go. There's money available through Spark, funded by the BC government. And it's available until 2026 for local communities and associations and regions to apply for funding one time up to $25,000. And the goal is to get the new Accessibility Act initiatives underway and to create some momentum, I would say, and take care of local issues, be it local access within buildings or designing or building ramps. So that funding is available right now. I've done a little bit of research on mobimat.com, very simple exercise for about 100 feet of mat and 2 beach chairs. The funding would be under $20,000 roughly. So it's a good fit that this grant program that's available right now for communities and municipalities to apply for fits with what we think are the needs for Parksville Community Park. We have partners that we've been speaking to, thanks to Councillor Gore, for facilitating meetings with the Parksville Beach Festival and with the Parksville Qualicum Beach Tourism Association. So they're on board with the initiative. They also very much like to see us have accessible beach here in Parksville for our visitors and for our residents. So the goal, the ask for our side is to get this well-known barrier removed and to do it as soon as possible. Our goal would be for the beginning of the summer season, 2024, maybe the Victoria Day long weekend would be an appropriate target date. We think it's very doable. We would like to ask that you work or direct the staff to work with us and with the other community organizations to make this project a reality. The funding is there, the will is there, and then what we can have is a nice celebration to open the beach to everyone, visitors and residents alike. Because in Parksville, it's all about the beach. Yeah, it's the one thing that we're most proud of, and it would be very nice to finally have it accessible to everyone, visitors and residents alike. Thank you.
Thanks, Ralph. Very good to hear from you again. The ask right away, going after the low hanging fruit. Obviously, we knew that we've been trying to. I was on the accessibility committee on previous council. We looked at mobile mats, and so I would just like to address professionally what's the outcome of looking at that mobile mat system. And the mobile mats has its place in different parts of the world, and not any of them are subject to the same tidal action that we have in our location. And that's unfortunate, and speaking as well for Rath Trevor Beach as well, because of they face the same situation. So twice a day we have tidal action on our beaches, and it's very difficult to actually attach the mobile mat so it's not affected by those tides. And the tides are strong in the summer as well as in the winter. We don't just wait for the king tides to have a displacement of the mobile mats. They literally will lift up the mobile mat and move them. And they're very heavy, as you know. You can drive a tank on them. I watched the video. So the problem is, of course, with our beaches being so tidal, twice a day, and we get some storms in the summertime. And we're both locations, speaking for Rath Trevor as well as Parksville Community Beach as well, both are subject to 2 prevailing winds, and one is the southeaster and one is the northwestern. And either one of them, the southeaster is not as damaging, but the northwester comes at us and we're full force and will tear up our beach and will deposit. Recognizing, of course, too, that other ones don't recognize that when they're talking about in a freshwater location, and maybe in Greece as well. I'm not sure about their topography around there. But our west coast beaches are subject to logs, lots of logs and debris floating. And that's what we are. You know, we're in the Pacific Northwest and that's what we are. And we have a lot of debris on our beaches. And that's why we have such great driftwood all over our beaches. And that's part of the habitat. And so, but those logs have tremendous force and they will rip through a mobile mat in 10 seconds because they usually have a big root ball on them. And so they literally will just destroy it. And those logs, those same logs would take apart lock block 2,000-pound walls just with the force of the in between the tide and the nature. So the mobile mats have not been proven to us to be a good solution. The town of Qualicum Beach had some mobile mats anyways that they actually offered us to try and so forth. They were damaged in a recent storm, but they did not work on their beach as well. I'm not familiar with their exposure on what tides are prevailing there. I don't think mobile mat is a good fit for us in between everything that we've heard about it and all the maintenance that would have to be on it. And in fact, they ended up being more of a hazard when they were left in place because they required daily maintenance because as tides do, the high stuff will settle down on something like the mobile mat. And then now we have to have a crew out there and like sweep it all off and, you know, make sure it's not going to damage it when the tide comes back again. And so it's high maintenance as well, just due to the fact of our title. So the beach chair portion of your request seems to me doable. I look at it like how we would handle it with, we need a service provider. You know, we could, you know, City of Parksville could purchase a couple of the beach chairs as recommended by yourself, which is more suitable to go across sand, and that is okay. And I thought it'd be nice if we had like a stand-up paddleboard rental firm down there, and they could just look at, you know, like locking them up and making sure that they're available during the daytime. We haven't had that advantage, but maybe I know the food trucks are a constant down there, so they could, you know, you could maybe run through the food trucks. It's doable. So I think that is an easy portion of what your ask is today, Ralph. The other thing is that being that we're tidal and we've checked Vancouver Island because they too are faced with the same Pacific Northwest attributes that we do. We haven't found another solution that other communities that are tidal beaches are doing because they face the same challenges. So I think what we'd like to do is we're aware of the spark, the grant opportunities coming forth and so forth, but we think that it's above our ability at this time to design a good accessible beach access. And so I think what we'd like to do is we'd like to avail ourselves of that. And our suggestion from staff is like we have 20,000 that's left over from the accessibility plan that we had previous, and then actually hire a independent provider consultant. And whether it's improving a concrete ramp, whether it's like reinforcing on both sides, you've noticed what happened. I can tell you the ramp on Parksville Beach was flush all the way down when they put it down. I was there when it happened and it looked really great and it would have been great. But recognize, of course, it only goes out part way into the beach, all depending on when, if you're willing to wait for the tide to come all the way in, or you know, so once the tide comes all the way in, yes, you could roll in off that when it was first finished. But of course, with that tidal action, there's always that scouring that goes on underneath any footing that goes on any concrete on the beach. And so that's why it looks like it's high and dry now. And it is, it's been eroded underneath it, as well as it's a regular depository, being the high point, of course, for the logs and so forth. So we have to send our front end loader down there to lift up the logs and get it off. And that in defense of Ras Trevor also was flush at one time. I remember when that was poured. I remember the family that instigated that as well. And it was a good access, but they have a leveler access at that point where they come out there. But once again, that is eroded at the end of it. So we're looking for a consultant some way, because to me, that is actually the best action. If we can have a concrete one that is not subject to erosion somehow, somebody with more abilities than I have, you know, to come up with that. So I think that's where we'd like to go with this, Ralph. I'll open up for council questions at the same time. But I think that that's kind of where we want to do it right. We want to do, the other ones were kind of Band-Aids that happened, and it were probably on a request from someone like yourself, saying that we should do something, and they went ahead with it. But I think that there are ways and methods of like a soft shore abilities that we have achieved now in other areas. Soft shore, where we actually reinforce whatever you do on the beach with the round boulders and so forth. Something like that I see as being something that's going to last, you know, so that you're not coming in every year and saying, you know, what happened to the ramp? Well, you know, last winter tide just removed it. So I really appreciate what you brought to us today, Ralph, and I give you our commitment. We are looking at it, the accessibility plan, our committee and so forth. They're trying every which way it can, and so they are aware of the Spark grants and so forth, and we will take advantage of that. But I think we need a higher level of expertise to give us something that's permanent, that's actually safe for you. And I think that's probably the direction that we're going to try and go. So to have it in place for May 24th weekend, I'm not sure that would happen, just because of staff capacity right now from everything else that they're trying to achieve, you know, from all the other lists. But that's kind of where we're at. Is I'm just being very frank with you right now. I can't promise you what I can't achieve. So.
No, thank you very much. And if I may respond very briefly,
Yes.
and that's a lot of good information. And yeah, we recognize that those concerns are out there. The Moby mats only came up because they are in use everywhere around southern BC. So they seem to be a popular solution, but we are not experts on tidal beaches either, or what the concerns would be. What we are very eager to have is this conversation in detail with an expert, with the staff that would be responsible for it, so that we could talk about it together and build a plan, build a time frame. And as you say, if there's a consultant that's required to engineer something, but we would like to see action on it, and we'd like to see it sooner rather than later, because we've never had the opportunity to get into those meat and potato discussions. But I'm glad to hear that the beach chairs are quick and easy.
Yeah, and that sounds, that's, we can work on that. And absolutely, Ralph, your organization will be at the table. You know, when it comes to deciding, like, just coming down, let's have a look at the beach. Where do you think a good location would be?
Right.
Not a consultant. You know, where do you think a good location would be, and how can we make that work? You will be at the table. You have a space at the table already.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Councillor Gore? You had your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to recognize the AOA members in attendance, and also want to thank AOA for all their efforts in making Parksville more accessible. As a liaison, I realize the focus has been on the beach and how to make it more accessible, as we are proud of our beach. As we say, like Parksville, the best beach on Vancouver Island, where some people can enjoy the beach, not everybody. And I want to thank the mayor for providing the background on the beach access issues and the challenges. But I'm really hopeful, like this summer, at least we can have the chairs available for people to use, so they're still able to go to the beach, to the water. The consultant requirement and the ramp, I think that can perhaps, if it has to, it could wait. But yeah, I would really like to see us move forward with applying for the grant through Spark VC, and we have some money in the budget. So that would be good ask for us to have those chairs in place for this summer. Thank you.
Councillor Martin?
So if we had the chairs, sir, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would the chairs be able to be used then at high tides? Is that would be how it would be used for now?
Yes, they could.
Without this, we could get right away on that. Right, perfect. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And Councillor Beal?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to our delegation. Thank you very much for the presentation. I did note, well, a couple of things came to mind. Certainly, I would like to see us make progress in this area, absolutely. And I appreciate seeing the Tourism Association Executive Director in the audience here as well. And I appreciate that. I think they're very supportive of your efforts. I have a couple of questions, though. One, I was really intrigued to see that, other areas on Vancouver Island, Mackenzie Beach and Rathtrevor made some attempts and so on, and in Nanaimo, and all of these examples were saltwater beaches. These were not freshwater lakes that I saw. So is there are you aware of any issues with the DFO, like with the federal? Because the thing about beaches, we get municipal up to a certain point, then we get provincial, and then we get federal. So I just wonder if you can comment on that. Have you been in touch with other communities that have made some positive progress, and so that we can learn from their experience regarding the different levels of government involvement?
Thank you, through the mayor. We're aware of the DFO issue, but neither has it ever been spelled out to us what exactly the concerns are or might be. Just looking at the pictures and what's been installed on different beaches, obviously, the beaches are somewhat similar to ours, I would think, in terms of wildlife, let's put it that way. So I don't see that could be a huge concern, because there are many examples of it. Also in Oak Bay, Willow Beach has recently installed a MobiMat system across the beach. So that's why it seems to be an obvious solution. I don't know how different Parksville's tide situation is versus other communities. Mackenzie Beach is a very large beach. The tides don't come up that high before you get to the hard sand. And again, the MobiMats are only used on a seasonal basis. So we are only looking at these examples and see them all around us, but we don't see a solution for Parksville. And that's our concern.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. And, given that there are so many examples right here on Vancouver Island, it's really a great opportunity for the group as well as, I presume, our staff to learn a bit more. Although it might have been fun if we all had to travel to Greece to see what they did there. Nonetheless, I guess we could stay closer to home and save a little bit of money. So I do look forward. And as the mayor mentioned, of course, the group members of the Access Oceanside will be at the table, and your input is so valuable. So thank you.
Councillor Grants.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to our delegation. Thank you for coming today and for the work you did to bring a great group of folks out as well. And pleased to meet some of you here. I very much admire the work you do in the community and making sure that it's accessible for everyone here in Parksville. And also your effort to collaborate with some of the other community contributors, such as Beach Fest and Parksville Qualicum Beach Tourism Association, mouthful. And speaking of Beach Fest, their letter mentions access to the sandcastle competition. Can you maybe speak to how your ask would relate to what their needs are?
Well, they have solved, through the mayor, they have solved their issue by purchasing 2 power chairs that are able to cross the sand and go around the area. So that has been the solution for the sand sculpting competition in this area. And that's really limited to that. But they, at the same time, had mentioned that they do get a lot of requests. What about going out onto the beach? And of course, there has been no solution for that. So we're hopeful that working with Beach Fest, that they could be during that period, could be the custodians of beach chairs, since they will also be there, for a good part of the summer. But they had to find their own solution, as they couldn't use a mat system within the sand sculpting area. Does that answer your question?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I just curious as to the potential overlap between their needs and what you're asking here today. So it sounds like there's some conversation on that, some synergies there, and very much appreciate you wanting to work collaboratively. I will note, just in terms of the process here of how these things work with council and staff, is that staff is constantly reminding us that they have this big, long work plan of things that they need to accomplish. And we'll be looking at how to prioritize those various needs. So that's where it's great to have a sort of timeline of when you'd like to see things done. But just sort of to manage expectations is that we have to then look at how that fits in with the other things like, roads and sewers and all the other stuff that we do here at the city. So as much as, being able to do some of the groundwork on all this is, I think is probably quite helpful in terms of making it possible to have this happen more quickly. So thank you for your work you've done so far on that, and hopefully we can continue that great effort.
And through the mayor, just to remind you, we've been on the list since 2018 and probably earlier. So we've been there for a while. We'd like to speed things up.
We're moving in the right direction. Yes, Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to comment and say thank you to the delegation at Access Oceanside Association. I've had both hips replaced, and so I think it's easy for people with full mobility to kind of overlook the obstacles that people with more limited mobility encounter. And so I really appreciate Councillor Gore and Mayor O'Brien's work on on the committees in the past. And I look forward to supporting AOA's efforts in the future. Thanks.
Thank you.
Right, any further questions, Council? Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation, Ralph.
Thank you.
Council, we have another delegation today. We have Radcliffe Development Corporation regarding a development permit application at 440 Island Highway West. Be a presentation by G. Wirch from Radcliffe Development Corporation regarding the development permit application at 440 Island Highway West. And I apologize in advance if I didn't get your last name quite right.
You nailed it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, sir. You have 10 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, councilors and staff that I see are now sitting behind us. Thank you for the opportunity to present our development permit application for a 79-unit condominium development that we refer to as Rowan. I'm Garwin Wirch, of Radcliffe Development Corporation, and I will provide a quick overview of the site context and regulatory data, followed by the building and landscape architecture. On the screen are two of our past projects completed in Parksville, the most recent at 100 Lombardy Street, a 34-unit mixed-use commercial residential development. Parksville's official community plan is an exceptional document. It provides inspiration and clear direction that shapes our vision for sustainable development. Our project is an infill on vacant land designed to breathe new life into the neighborhood, create further interest, support more residents, and foster new investment, making the city more attractive, sustainable, and vibrant. The Rowan development will offer homeowners numerous plan types and unit sizes, premium park amenities, and top-notch architectural design in a prime location. The subject site is 440 Island Highway, 3.5 blocks west of the downtown. An aerial photo of the site and its boundaries is shown in red. We've owned this vacant parcel for 17 years. The surroundings include several neighborhood elements, Marks Nature Park, a small urban park with walking trails accessible from Finholm Street, the Meadows, an 80-unit strata complex, and the Windham Travel Lodge, an 88-room hotel catering to business and leisure travelers. The property is zoned comprehensive development under Parksville's CD 28 bylaw. This zone is intended to provide for a mix of tourist commercial and medium to high density residential and care uses. There are 2 subzones on the parcel. Our current development application is in CD 28B. Maximum lot coverage, floor area ratio, building height, and minimum setbacks are highlighted in red. The subject property lies within two development permit areas. Area 3, commercial and mixed use, and Area 13, watercourse protection. Under the official community plan, DPA 3 aims to rejuvenate the region's appearance by encouraging distinctive architectural features and landscape designs. The goal is to create an attractive ambience for residents and visitors while ensuring compatibility with adjacent land uses. Additionally, its purpose is revitalization, form and character, energy and water conservation, and reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. In meeting Area 3 Guidelines 7, our environmental sustainability features are listed beneath the maps. Among the noteworthy, a bioswale and landscape plan with 0 lawn areas, individual water meters behind the city's master meter, solar photovoltaic system to power the common lighting, high efficiency HVAC with heat recovery ventilator in each unit, and level 2 EV-ready charging outlets. This is an overlay of the proposed 2-lot subdivision plan and dedicated linear park. Our development permit application for the 79-unit condominium project pertains only to Lot B. The civil work required to complete the subdivision is covered under an approved servicing agreement. The agreement includes the expansion of Rowan Avenue from Finholm Street to Lot B, relocating the stormwater channel as shown on the plan, and creating a pedestrian pathway within the linear park to connect Marks Nature Park and to Highway 19A. A designated stream side protection and enhancement area restricts any development within 10 meters of the realigned water channel. Looking at the project data, the lot coverage, floor area ratio, and building height all comply with the zoning regulations. The site access on Rowan Avenue features an arc-shaped frontage with a driveway leading to the main building entrance and returning through the surface visitor parking area. A parkade ramp near the street entrance gives residents straight access to the underground parking. The building's L-shaped structure is massed along the north and east boundaries of the property to minimize the impact on the adjacent residential located directly south, respectful of noise, lighting, and privacy. Pedestrian walkways from the building connect to Rowan Avenue and extend to the linear park along the northeast boundary. With this application, we request a variance for the ramp and the underground parkade to extend into the setback area on the south property line. The setback dimension is 1.37 meters from the property. Notably, the building above grade complies with the minimum 6-meter requirement. The building includes a secure underground parkade for residents' vehicles, bikes, and scooters. The parking design meets the zoning regulations, including accessible stalls, visitor surface parking, and loading zones. The entrance of the building is prominently visible from Rowan Avenue, and it serves as the central point of focus for both residents and visitors, featuring high ceilings and a 4-story glass curtain wall. The elevations incorporate a mix of claddings, soffit, stucco, and glazing materials, and frequent interruptions articulated with roof overhangs and expansive balconies. Utilizing glass sliding doors and large windows is a central design element that floods the interior living spaces with natural light and seamlessly connects the outdoor balconies, terraces, and patios. The building design is intended to be aesthetically quiet and complementary to the site's most notable surroundings, Marks Nature Park and the Linear Park. Establishing a connection between the building and its environment, earth tone colors, materials, and textures mimic the natural landscape found throughout the Parksville region. The exterior envelope is designed with durable materials to create a sustainable and resilient building that benefits both occupants and the environment, leading to longer building lifespan and savings on maintenance. The site layout and building are designed to reduce the likelihood of crimes being committed using the 4 main principles of crime prevention through environmental design. natural surveillance, access control, territorial reinforcement, and space management. Outdoor lighting in the parking area, pedestrian walkways, and community spaces will adhere to dark sky guidelines, utilizing bollard lights for ground level illumination, ensuring safety and security compliance. The landscape design aims to establish connections between people and the environment. A lush planting pellet that relies on indigenous species layered with complementary ornamental grasses and over 100 trees to replicate natural ecosystems. The materials for the boardwalk and pergola, along with concrete seating walls and pavers, capture the warmth, colors, and textures found throughout the region, the coastal region of Vancouver Island. The design elements, like a series of bird towers, will provide habitat function for birds and a whimsical design for people to enjoy. The boardwalk and seating area overlooking the linear park offer a communal space for people to gather and encounter nature. Along the perimeter of the parking area, a loop pedestrian pathway functions as the additional outdoor amenity, promoting walking and social connectivity. A few challenges complicate our efforts to comply with Bylaw 501 in specific areas along the east property. And we respectfully request a variance with this application to adjust the maximum height allowance for retaining walls from 1 meter to 1.25 meters and a retaining wall combined guardrail height from 2 meters to 2.45 meters. In mitigating the circumstances, the area below and above the landscape retaining wall will be generously planted with shrubs and ground covers to conceal and reduce its visual impact. The recent pandemic has shown us how urban design influences our mental health and overall well-being. Research in what is termed restorative urbanism has demonstrated that thoughtfully designed homes and connections to nature can significantly improve people's mental health and well-being. And with this in mind, we incorporated design elements to promote resiliency where people can thrive and live well alongside each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Great presentation. I appreciate that. I just have a couple of questions. I'll lay it open to council in a second here. There's a water course that runs through the area from Marks Park, like a creek and so forth. Yes. Is that actually through your property itself or is it adjacent to your property?
It's through our property.
Right.
Yeah, it's a storm ditch through the property.
Yes. And what kind of protection are you doing on that, or what is your plans around that?
So in our servicing agreement and a development permit, we have approval to relocate that water channel to move it outside of the property into Lot 3, which is between Parks Nature Park and our site, and basically turn that storm ditch into a feature for the city of Parksville with the linear park.
Thank you. And so that would be daylighted. It wouldn't be an underground pipe.
Yes.
Thank you. And with appropriate landscaping around it and so forth?
Yes, a riparian area, a new riparian area.
And then since you mentioned it's actually transversing your other lot that's on that area, would it be available for all public access or only the tenants of your development?
Yes, the water channel relocation would be on Lot 3 between us and the park, and Lot 3 is owned by the city of Parksville.
Okay.
So that's covered in the servicing agreement and the development permit
So
for relocation.
So public access will be free and available?
Yes.
Thank you. And you mentioned anyways that Rowan Avenue would be one of your access points?
Yes.
It was going to be extended through to Rowan Avenue?
Yes.
Yes.
And that's paid for us and also included in the servicing agreement.
That's where I was going.
Yeah.
Thank you. And also, your relaxation of the setbacks anyways was to allow the rampway to give egress to or your underground parking. Is that correct?
Precisely.
And is that on the Island Highway 19A side of the project?
It is, it'll come off the Rowan Avenue cul-de-sac.
Okay. That's
Yes,
fine.
on the south side.
I was unclear on where that was going to be. Fine, thank you. That answers all my questions. Thank you. Council, questions for Mr. Wirch? Go ahead, Councillor Grants.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to our delegation. Thank you very much for your presentation and the careful approach you took to planning all this out for us, which is very much appreciated. I also was able to watch Councillor Beal participate in the advisory design panel. So that was very helpful to learn about this project some more. My question is, what is the timeline you're anticipating for the water course to be established? And then the other question is, you mentioned the mental health aspects of design, and I fully agree with you on that. Are there any indoor community spaces as part of this project as well?
So answer to the first question, our timeline, we are planning to start the work for the servicing, relocation of the water channel next year. Our weather window for that to actually relocate the water channel will be June. And we will not start construction until that's completed, as the water course does bisect the property. So over the next year, once we have a development permit approval, we can go ahead and proceed with the engineered designs and all the work for the building. We already have all the design work done for the water channel, and we'll start that hopefully in spring.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't answer the amenity space in the building. We do not have any interior space in the building for amenities or gathering. It's basically outdoor space. And one of the things that we're looking at is to incorporate a lot of glass in each of the units so that you can slide open doors and bring that outside experience and nature and all the views of Marks Nature Park from upper floor levels. There will be water views of the ocean and just bring that outdoor space into the building with lots of natural light, fresh air, well lit.
Thank you. Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to our delegation. Thank you very much. And as Councillor Grenz alluded to, I was part of the ADP, the Advisory Design Panel, mostly just sitting in, listening to the experts. So I was very impressed. I'm really impressed with how you've cited this building on the property. It shows a lot of consideration to nearby neighbors at the Meadows, minimizing the real impact to that particular area and understanding there's a hotel on the other side, so it's a different experience again. So like to see that, like to see the walkways having been adjusted. I was curious if you've given any consideration, and maybe this will come up a bit later, but you know, I'm thinking about, we have our accessibility Oceanside here, and I am seeing, you know, stairs that lead down towards that future lot development. Given that there's stairs there now, is that something that might be able to be adjusted in the future when that neighboring lot is developed? Or has there been any thought given to the stairways, both at the main entrance and also along the side there? That's just that's what I'm wondering about.
After watching today's presentation, it does bring that to mind for sure. And I think there's opportunity with the next development to build some kind of ramp that accesses that linear park from this site as well. I don't see that as a great barrier, so I'm sure we could do something.
Thank you. Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. To our delegation, I was really impressed looking at the development permit application. Very pleased with the green infrastructure that you're using, the rainwater management, using the natural ways of managing rainwater. Very impressed with the landscape design. I personally would love to live in one of those units. And its proximity to Marks Nature Park and how you're working into creating a linear park in the continuity of that wildlife corridor. And very likely that this water stream, I think it's Carey Creek that flows, will be used by the wildlife. So I'm very happy to support this application. I do have one question. Since this water feature is being realigned and moved to a city-owned lot, that would essentially make this lot 3 unusable for us as a city. Sorry, it would be converted into a park. Okay, oh, it is a park. It is a park space. Okay, perfect. So that answers my question. Any thought into what you're thinking about the other lot? Is lot A that you're proposing? Any future plans?
We will look at designing something that is compatible with what we're proposing on Lot B. The zoning is a little different. We'll likely have some mixed use on that property with commercial spaces on ground floor.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very, very great presentation, sir. I've been in the Lombardi building. You mentioned that. So your company built the Lombardi building? Because it is very well done, in my opinion, and from people I know that live there. So I would endorse this as far as quality is concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor, through yourself to Mr. Birch. Building on what Councillor Martin was saying, I believe both Stones Throw and Lombardi Building are yours in Parksville. If so, I believe they're fantastic properties, and they're hard to beat for the beauty and the style that you bring to Parksville. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Any further questions from council? Good. Okay, seeing none. Mr. Wirtz, thank you very much for your presentation. Well done. I think you've answered all of council's questions for now, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we do a quick 5-minute recess?
Yes. We're just going to take a quick comfort break now for a few minutes, please. Welcome back, council. Thank you very much. We'll reconvene now after that short recess. Good afternoon. We'll carry on with the next report. The report on the agenda for the Director of the Community Planning and Building for consideration of a development permit application at 440 Island Highway West. Do we have a presentation by the planner or not? Okay, that's fine. So do I have a mover and seconder for the recommendation as noted? Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Beal. Any discussion, please? Thank you. Sorry. The reports are attached. Yeah. Do you have any questions or anything? No. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you, council. The next report we have is the Director of Finance 2023-2027 Amendment Financial Plan. To provide council with an amended 2023-2027 Financial Plan bylaw. Do I have a mover and seconder for the recommendations as reported? Moved by Councillor Gore, seconded by Councillor Beal. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you. The next report is the Director of Corporate Services, the submission of the resolutions for the AVICC Annual Convention to seek council direction on the submission of potential resolutions for consideration at the 2024 AVICC Convention. Mover and seconder for the recommendations for the materials in your background. Second, moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Grenz. Any discussion? Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. So just to clarify, I would like to choose the option 2 that we will have resolutions presented. But does it have to happen at this time?
CAO Kaler, if you could just clarify, please.
Thank you. If I may, is this working?
Not really.
Is it
Yes.
working now? Thank you. If I may, through the mayor, so we have until February, end of February. But we usually bring this to council with enough time in advance so that you can meet with whoever you need to meet with or do some research, but we just want to let you know that this is coming up. And so what would happen is council would make a motion at a future meeting if you wish to prepare that for AVICC by the deadline. There are some exceptions, but normally we try to make sure we get the deadline met because you're not guaranteed to get the items on the agenda after that date.
You good on that? Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? You're good? Councillor Wood, question or comment?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of comments. I was chatting with Councillor Beal earlier today, and I'm guessing there's going to be quite a few resolutions regarding the housing legislation from the province. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't submit our own. Maybe the more the merrier as to resolutions pertaining to housing legislation. I also wanted to offer, I've written a few resolutions now, and I know our staff are very taxed, and if I can help write any resolutions or help write any resolutions, that might alleviate a little bit of time from our staff to do so. And the final thing I wanted to mention is that I've already mentioned to a couple of board members on AVICC. Some of you might recall that we had an active transportation roundtable with Eleanor McMahon from Trans Canada Trail. She's the president and CEO. I've asked if she could come as a speaker to AVICC. I think it would be really great for Vancouver Island to hear her speak. So we'll see if that happens, but I just wanted to mention that, that's kind of what I was thinking about. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor Wood. And also, yeah, as a reminder that they were not only looking for resolutions, they were looking for speakers that would be appropriate for this. So a suggestion of speakers, as Councillor Wood has just mentioned of. So if you think of someone else who would be appropriate at the AVICC, now's the time. I think that's a relatively quick timeline that they want that identified. I think they want it before the end of this year. So if you have anybody that you feel would be beneficial for the rest of us at the AVICC, you can let them know. I know they'd appreciate any suggestions. Any further comments at this time? All those in favor? It carries unanimous. Thank you. The next report is from the Manager of Administrative Services regarding the 2024 meeting dates for council. All council has saw the report attached. Do I move or second or further recommendations? Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Beal. Comments or questions? All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you, council. Next one we have is 3 readings for the 5-year financial plan amendment bylaw 2023 to 2027, number 1584.1, amended 2023 to 2027 financial plan. Do I have a mover second for the recommendations? Councillor Grant. Seconded by Councillor Gore. Any errors, omissions, or comments? All those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you, council. I have the next one under bylaws. We have 3rd reading this afternoon for zoning and development amendment bylaw 2023, number 2000.145, regarding the text amendment to comprehensive development CD10 at 188 McCarter Street. In this one, I'm going to suggest that I will be moving this. Zoning and development bylaw number 2023, number 2000.145 be read a 3rd time. I'll move that. I'm looking for a seconder. Seconder by Councillor Grenz. Thank you. Having moved it, I'll just speak to this quickly here. McCarter Street is for the, as we all know, is for the treatment center, proposed treatment center on McCarter Street. We received a vast amount of public information from this and a lot of people seeking more information, which I was very happy that Island Health was able to provide timely and respectfully, I felt. We also had our public hearing where everyone was given the opportunity to speak in a very emotionally charged atmosphere. And I felt that the public behaved extremely well and respectful of each other's comments. Everyone was given the opportunity to speak in a thoughtful place without fear of any, well, in a respectful place of council. So I appreciate that as well. I also have heard a lot of the comments and read a lot of the comments about those people fearful of this proposal, and I listened loud and clear, and people needed to get that information to get to the comfort zone on it. I myself am, I feel I can trust the word as given by Island Health as to the performance and the understanding of what this center is going to look like. And there's a number of safeguards that are built into the proposal, and I appreciate that as well. And just to let the community know that those that are fearful that we're not in support of this project, that we as council will keep the landlord as well as the Island Health accountable for everything that they have committed to. And I can give commitment to our community that council will make sure that the accountability is met by the proponents of this facility. And I'm sure that that is understood by the proponents, and I'm looking forward to it. If this proposal saves one life, it's definitely worth taking the chance at this time to move forward with this. So I'll leave it at that. I obviously in support of this. Councillor Grams, you have next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. I too will be supporting this proposal. I very much appreciate, I'm going to echo the comments made by the mayor here about how grateful I am to the community for how people came out to speak to this this proposal. I would say that was a 3 Kleenex public hearing. A lot of emotion there. And a lot of vulnerability to hear from people in the community speak to their own experience with this huge challenge that we face as a society right now. And while I will say that this particular proposal is the proponent themselves say this is not for Parksville. This is not going to be a service provided specifically for Parksville citizens. It's something for Vancouver Island more widely. But as I've said in previous votes on this, this is, I'm surprised that we don't have more of these already, and we need to get moving and supporting the effort to bring more treatment centers, because treatment is definitely part of the solution to the challenge that we're facing right now with so many people that each of us have in our own lives that have been touched by addiction. I will, though, and have heard the concerns from the community around the placement of this facility, and fully recognize and have had many conversations with members of the business community and other members of our community that have invested a lot of their personal time and energy and money into trying to run a business and ensure that our downtown is vibrant and meeting the goals that we have as a council and our strategic plan. So to that end, I will be bringing a motion after this vote, should it pass, to just close off one of the loops I think that we need to address in order to make sure that we can allow the downtown businesses and the tourism sector to feel comforted and confident that this is going to be something that's going to fit nicely into the community and not affect their interests, which are also all of our interests here, is to have a vibrant downtown with a thriving tourism sector, which is what pays for a lot of the services that we're able to provide here to our community. So I will be bringing that forward after this, should it pass. And I thank the proponent for their diligent effort to collaborate with and inform and work together with the community. My motion is that I'm going to bring forward is merely to encourage that even more. So thank you to everyone who's worked on this project.
Thank you, Councillor Grants. Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. To the mayor, to the council. So this has been a very, some people say it was a polarizing proposal, but I want to respectfully disagree with that statement. I know we heard opposition from local businesses, people working in the area, trying to make a living. I know most of them, personally. It's not that those are heartless people. They are very kind, community-oriented people who make a living in this community and also live in this community. They care about this community. I think a lot of concern, the nervousness and the anxiety with this proposal that was heard was when it comes to treatment, mental health, addictions, homelessness. It also speaks to the stigma that is prevalent in our community. There are some legitimate concerns that these social issues bring, but also the stigma. Every time we think of a treatment center, quickly in our memory, we think of downtown East Side or downtown Nanaimo. And I can assure you, nobody in Parksville wants that to happen to our downtown, not this council, not the residents, not the businesses. However, this proposal does not include a safe injection site. Island Health has done a very good job of clarifying what this is about, how they're going to operate, the different checks and balances from the restrictive covenants, good neighborly agreement, physical security in present, even going further to make sure Parksville gets its fair share of property taxes. So to me, Island Health has done a really good job. And I think the real task begins now. If this passes for, as Councillor Wood previously mentioned, if it's to work well in our community, or if it were to fail, it will entirely be on Island Health. No pressure. I will be happy to support this. I don't have to say much why we need treatment, but usually we as people think when it's about addictions, it's the people we see on the streets, but there's a big component of the invisible addictions people face. These are our neighbors, our friends, family members, co-workers who have addictions, who have families, mortgages, an actual life to go back, and they've made this conscious decision that I have to change. I need to take control of my life. And there is a facility that exists in Parksville that will give me the opportunity to go back to being who I want to be, what my family wants me to be. Yes, it's an emotional decision, and I am an emotional person, yes. But I think also practically speaking, this will be function well with all the things that are being proposed by Island Health. I think, and I'm really hopeful, this will be successful in our community. And just a couple more seconds, Mayor, like I was really happy, as Councillor Grants mentioned, it might not necessarily be serving Parksville, but I still think there will be opportunity for people in the Oceanside to be served by this facility. And I was excited to see that 40 other beds that were recently announced by Island Health on the island. So I think this is a trend. We are moving in the right direction to address the lack of treatment facilities. And I'm happy to support this. Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have had many discussions about this, and my fellow councillors have expressed themselves very well. When I first heard about this and saw it, I thought, we have to have full disclosure. We have to have that. We have to have an understanding about what is going on here. And I really think Island Health has gone over and above in that regard. They have been open to answer questions and had their open house, which was part of it, but many other things that have been done. And I'm finding that after what happened with other things that go on in the community and the pros and cons and all the division there is, I think that, things are above board, and it is full disclosure in my regard. And this is what I've been concerned about, that everyone does get an understanding about what this is about. So thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to seeing the final result on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, fellow councillors who've spoken so far with your very thoughtful remarks. For me, thinking about this, well, I will say, in all honesty, I've read every email I received prior to the public hearing, attended open house, read through the FAQs that were put together by Island Health and all of the details, and also the follow-ups that they provided to questions and concerns that were raised by residents and business owners. And I listened carefully to all the individuals who spoke at the public hearing, which I would agree was a three tissue event. It was really very emotional, and spoke to the courage and vulnerability of people who came out to share their personal stories. These are residents and people who work in our neighborhood. The concerns I heard included fears for safety, for security, negative impacts on freedom of movement, and increased demands on public safety services, a negative effect on local businesses, questions about taxes, and a negative impact on the vibrancy of the area. And there were other concerns voiced, which really were wrapped up in that, which were about the social problems associated with the visible homelessness. But I think we know from what we really understand about the Island Health proposal is that that does not directly relate to the proposal before us. I also heard and read many comments of support, and some from professionals who work in the field and that manage similar centers. The local RCMP at the start, when they were contacted, their concern was, would there be increased calls for services? But when they reached out to other areas such as Nanaimo and South Island, they found out that there was not a high service demand from any of those other facilities. So that was really positive to hear. It really saddened me to hear that residents might feel unsafe or worry about walking in the area. This proposed facility will be staffed 24/7 with security cameras and security plans in place. It should actually, in my mind, have the effect of increasing safety in this area of the downtown. And it would hopefully increase feelings of security if it goes ahead. It's meant to be a high barrier facility, and that means not only for the people who enter the programs, but also for their visitors. It's not possible for anyone to just walk in off the street to this facility. And following the treatment plan, people return to their home communities and to their own follow-up plans in their home communities. There will be a community advisory committee and a good neighbor agreement, and taxes will continue to be paid to the city. The topic of vibrancy came up more than once. If this was to be an assisted living facility, as it was in previous years, it would actually fit the existing zoning and it wouldn't even be coming before council. And it's not clear to me what level of vibrancy that would provide to the downtown area, so I can't actually comment on that. But the treatment center will have professional and support staff working in our downtown area, and these additional jobs will be a positive addition. And this will be taking place in a building that's been empty for a period of time. I would also like to add that from what I've seen, Island Health does a good job maintaining their facilities. So I expect the building itself to look good from the outside, that the grounds will be maintained. And so I think in many respects, this will, again, in that regard, be a benefit to our community. But going back and picking up on something that Councillor Gore said, because some people did feel this was really divisive, but what I heard was a common opinion that came through from people who were in support and in opposition, and it was the expressed need for a treatment center, that people understand. It speaks to the care and understanding that our community members have, and the realization that increased access to treatment for alcohol and drug addictions is needed, whether it be across the street or whether it be down the road or whether it be in a neighboring community. I think that came out across the board, and I really appreciated that. I think it speaks well of our larger community, and for all of these reasons, I will be supporting this.
Councillor Beal, any further comments from council? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the rest of council. Thank you to everyone who came out to the public hearing. I even sent the link to my mother in Ontario. It was there were some heart-wrenching moments for sure. I just wanted to mention that I understand the business community's caution. I don't think all the steps that that some of the provincial ministries have done have been perfect. I think maybe we're all learning as we go. But it is on Island Health and it is on the provincial ministries to make sure that this is a success. It sounds like here at council that we are going to support it, and it's a pleasure for me to do so. I think abstinence-based addiction recovery centers are a must-have in the situation that we find ourselves in, people struggling with addiction. Here at council, we don't get to choose the placement of these. We get to deal with what is brought to us. And so that's what we have to take into account. That's what we vote on. I will mention that we have to remember where a lot of these opiate issues came from, and that's Purdue Pharma. The province has a lawsuit against them. And there's a lot of documentation on how Purdue Pharma was running their OxyContin. And I also want to mention that I don't necessarily think that unwitnessed safe supply with dilaudid purchase from Purdue Pharma is necessarily a great way to reduce stigma and to help people who are struggling with addiction. Witnessed safe supply is one thing, and unwitnessed safe supply, where we hand dilaudid out and to the people struggling with addiction, and they can leave, and there may be some diversion where that gets sold. So I've already mentioned it to Minister Whiteside, and I think it's important that I wanted to mention it here, that it's understandable why the business community has a lot of trepidation and caution around anything to do with addiction. But I feel like this proposal will be a great benefit to Mid-Island, and I think it is going to really help people who are struggling with addiction, and will not make our community experience more problems. It'll make things better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Any other further comments from council? Hearing none. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? That is carried with Adam, Councillor Fraz opposing. Thank you, council.
If I may.
Councillor Grens.
Thank you. I'd like to bring a motion forward. I understand that it's not on the agenda, but I'm hoping that council will support a motion to close the loop on what I think is just one piece that's missing. So the motion is that we ask Island Health to bring forward the terms of reference for the community advisory committee and the Good Neighbor Agreement for council approval prior to adoption.
I'll second for discussion. And if you want to ask a question, is that okay? Yeah. I'll second for discussion. And maybe Councillor Grens can have first speak on it, and then I'll go over to Councillor Beal. You okay with that? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So recognizing that the proponent has been very cooperative and flexible in providing a number of the things that council has requested to address some of the concerns that the community may have. And one of those is to the covenant that they've agreed to, the CAC and the Good Neighbor Agreement. So far, I would like to work with Island Health to make sure that the terms of reference cover some of the concerns that I was able to discuss with them in a meeting that I had. I was fortunate to be able to sit down in a meeting with a number of members of Island Health and bring up some of the community concerns, and they're very open to how they can address those concerns. I would just like to see that a little more formalized, not set in stone, but just a more formalized presentation to council prior to final adoption of this, just so that we can make sure we close the loop on what I see as being kind of a final piece that is not fully fleshed out yet.
Now I understand. Okay, thank you. And what I'm going to do at this time, I'm going to question to the CAO, CAO Kaler. Would this be an appropriate resolution at this time, Ms. Kaler, to, as Councillor Grens is suggesting, to solidify the agreement that came in many documents in many forms to us, and also in public presentations? Would this be helpful, or do we already have this that in all the paperwork is been eluded us? Your comments, please.
Thank you. If I may, through you to council. So we do have a commitment from Island Health that they would enter into the Community Advisory Committee, but if I understand the motion correctly, Councillor Grens wants to see the final terms of reference and have an opportunity to discuss potential items or things that I wasn't at the meeting that you had, so sorry, but and then what would happen is that ideally Island Health would appear as a delegation on the same agenda, where final adoption would be later in the agenda. So we would not bring it forward for final adoption until council, if this passes right now, until council approves their terms of reference for that committee.
I see. Okay, so then if this passes, I would hope that we'd present this resolution to Island Health with the intent of having the information done for adopting final reading.
Yes, if I may, normally what will happen after third reading is approved is the client or the applicant would be solidifying the conditions. So there is a section 219 covenant, I believe.
Right.
So that would get registered, and that requires a little bit of time and effort for us as well. We need to sign some documents. And then other commitments that are required get fulfilled. Usually it takes a few weeks and then it comes back to council for final when those conditions are essentially satisfied. And so in this situation, if council approves this motion on the floor, before the final adoption is presented to you for consideration, council would have the opportunity to determine if it was satisfied with the final terms of reference and the items contained therein, and that would basically conclude that condition. The section 219 would already be registered before we would put that on the agenda, and any other items that are identified, which I agree there's been many and I can't remember all of them, but our planning director, I'm sure, has them all in hand. And so typically we look to him to work with the applicant between now and final adoption. And then we would put it on the agenda when it's ready to go forward, basically for that final step.
So then council would receive a report from planning anyways as to what that final 219 is going to look like, and the terms of reference would be included in that.
If I may, we don't usually provide another report.
Okay.
Your motions throughout the process and the reports that have come to council throughout the process basically stipulate what those conditions are. And then unless there's specific direction, which we don't normally receive,
Right.
It's kind of a technical exercise where staff work with, sometimes with our lawyer if it's a covenant that we want
Right.
and we need advice on. But in this situation, a little bit more straightforward, I think. And so, we essentially just work, usually the lawyer for the applicant gives us the draft and then our staff read it and proofread it and make sure City of Parksville is spelled correctly and those kinds of things. And that the clauses are reflective of the council decisions. And then we register, our corporate officer plays a role there. And the other conditions, when the planning director has them listed and they're complete, then we put it on the agenda. And it would come in the bylaw section like it is today.
Yes.
But it would be under the fourth final adoption heading. And then if council passes this motion today, we would have the applicant appear as a delegation earlier in the same agenda usually, so that it doesn't delay that process any further.
Right.
And then they're kind of here, they only have to come once because usually they like to be here for that decision as well.
Right, and I think that speaks to council having the comfort zone met, requirements met, to say, it's one thing to say we're going to register a covenant, it's another one to say how is that going to be done and when it's going to be done. It identifies timelines on the process of that happening. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, and Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to staff. So is this an appropriate ask just because it becomes a new delegation, new information after a public hearing and after we've already passed the third reading? So that's my question. And second, if this motion does pass, how much would it delay the process if it were not?
So if I may, through the mayor, it's not new information because they said before the public hearing, they said they were going to do this and council accepted that as a condition. And so really, I think the commitment is there. What I understand is you just want to see the final version of the document.
That's right.
So there's no, if this was the first time we were talking about that as a clause or a condition, then yes, we probably would have to go back to public hearing. Probably, it depends, but in this situation, it's been part of the proposal, I guess, all along. And it has been a known, I think they've even provided a draft. So it wouldn't be substantially different unless you're planning on going some really different way with what's in that agreement. So yeah, I think we would evaluate it again, I guess, if the draft came back as a final version and it was completely different than what had been anticipated, but I don't think that's the intent of the motion on the floor.
Okay.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. No, I truly respect and understand the intent of the motion. I think it's good for us to be proactive and try to cover our bases and make sure Island Health delivers on the promises. Is this a standard practice? Has the council done such an exercise before to get a final covenant before we give a final reading?
If I may, through the mayor, so yes, we always get the final, we sign off on the documents. Or sometimes on occasion, it could be something that the covenant has to be registered prior to building permit. So those kinds, we basically secure what we can at the rezoning time. But with respect to the Community Advisory Committee, that's not a very common thing. We've only really had this with one other application that was a zoning amendment, and that's with Orca Place. And I don't believe we brought the final version, but it was a condition of that zoning. And then staff just worked with the committee or with Island Health on the committee. And one thing I should note too is we often do like to leave a little bit of room for the committee themselves to kind of have input into the terms of reference. So as long as council understands that, you know, say the commit, like, I don't know, if there's a term in the committee's final version where they want to slightly amend it, but it doesn't change the intent, we do want to make sure they have that flexibility because it's obviously their committee working, you know, as a group. So there's a lot of consensus decisions that could happen afterwards, normally around things like the objectives and maybe the meeting frequency and that sort of thing. So they might not be able to nail every single item down, but you know, they could bring you the final version that they would use to solicit members for that committee. And yeah, if that's something that council wants to see.
Councillor Beal.
Mr. Mayor, and I guess first thought was I was expecting that something might come up with a notice of motion, so I'm a little bit surprised and somewhat unprepared to have a motion brought forward at this time. More so, I'm hesitant to add yet another layer of bureaucracy to something when in fact Island Health has in fact committed to providing a setting up a community advisory committee and developing a good neighbor agreement. And we did receive, or I've received a copy of something with that they put in writing here that the representation is from neighbors, business, local organizations, local government. I guess that would be us and first responded, but also it includes the co-development of a good neighbor agreement. So I wouldn't want to see us put Island Health into a situation where they're being asked to provide something that is in fact meant to be developed by the very members of the neighborhood who are in the area around this. And also at this point in time, although if they have a draft and if that's all we're asking for, but if we're asking for something that's really quite specific, then that seems to go against the nature of what an advisory committee would be. So I'm torn. I'm not against the intent. I don't honestly feel that it's necessary. And again, it's going to add yet a little more bureaucracy. And as we know here, if we add bureaucracy, that means additional staff time, which is additional expense. And I'm sure that's true for Island Health as well. So I don't know if perhaps would it make sense to have, because the motion as it stands wants to see this in place before final adoption. And I'm not sure that that's a reasonable timeline given their situation.
CAO Kaler, any comment?
If I may, through the mayor, I think Councillor Grenz has his hand up, but my understanding is that the motion is for the terms of reference for the committee, which would be different than the good neighbor agreement, which would come out of the committee, is my understanding. So I guess if through the mayor, if Councillor Grenz clarifies
Thank you.
that.
And Councillor Grant.
Thank you. And through you to council, I will apologize because I do not, as you know, I'm not a fan of dropping in motions at the last minute. But the reason I did this is to actually, the way I did is because I acknowledge that we want this to not be delayed. And so what I'm merely asking for is there are a few items that I just want to feel confident about, that when I go back to the people who had their concerns, I'm going to be able to go back and say, we've been able to address them. This is going to be a success because we are aware of the parameters and we're all working collaboratively towards the success of this. And the actual motion says that the council would be approving this. So, you know, it's up to us basically when they bring it forward to approve or not approve. so we don't, it's not like it's too, it's still discretionary for us to do, but it does give us the opportunity to just bring forward the final things or things that were addressed during the public hearing that I would like to just make sure that Island Health is fully on top of and aware of and is considering as part of their terms of reference so that we can ensure that this will be a success. That's my thinking here.
Yeah, CEO Kaler.
Thank you. If I may, through you to council, I think one thing, and sorry if you did already, and I blipped this out, but I think one thing that might be helpful for Island Health is an understanding from council of what is missing from the draft, or what specific items you're looking to see in that final version. Or is it just that you want what was, basically laid out in the draft and you just want it kind of signed off as this is what we're going to release in order to solicit membership? But I think that would help Island Health understand what it is, the additional demand or request would be.
Councillor Grants, can you clarify and maybe just find?
Sure, yeah, for my part, I have specific things that I want to look at in the terms of reference and just make sure that I'm comfortable with that it will address the concerns in the community when that comes out. And I think this is our opportunity to just have that comfort level at that point. And so what we have so far is a draft, or not even a draft, it's a sample from another community. And so I want to make sure that we can circle back on that and see that it applies properly to our community. And as CEO has indicated, what is not there, what is there? Is there anything that needs to be adapted for our community specifically so we can address the concerns that we heard through this process?
So maybe could we fine tune that to say that you request that Island Health provide in your resolution, provide a draft copy of the terms of reference that can be presented to council so that we can just make sure it includes all the concerns that you would have. Would that be sufficient?
Yeah, so my plan is I will be looking at that again and I will be reaching out to them and just saying, okay, here are the things that I would love to see in the terms of reference. And then I'd love them to bring that back to us so we can just approve that as, just so we have that as part of the final check off the list, basically, because I felt like this was one of the items. We've closed the loop on a number of things. We've got the Section 219 covenant. We've got the agreement to do the terms of reference. We've got the permissive tax exemption dealt with. But this to me was the one item that wasn't really quite fleshed out. We have the actual language of the Section 219 covenant to look at before we did this vote today. But we do not have the level of what I would like to see personally, based on what I've heard from the community, to make sure that those concerns are addressed so that this will be a success. That's my thinking.
Thank you. And I think it's fair to note as well that we have approved third reading, so it's already done. So it's not going to delay the process, but I think it's just at this time the council member would be more comfortable after voting for approval on this. It's already been done. What would just like some confirmation just to give better comfort that our community is served properly. And I understand that. I fully go on. CAO Kaler. I'll get to you in a second, Councillor Wood. I'm doing CAO Kaler first and then to you.
Sorry, my apologies to jump in before Councillor Wood there, but I think we do have, I'm just looking at the draft that was provided and it is specific to 188 MacArthur, but I think my only caution would be for individual councillors to send something to Island Health between now and final adoption is a little bit problematic because you may not agree. And so I think you as a council today, if you're considering adding this as a condition prior to final, my recommendation would be you solidify what's missing or what you want to see expressly in that terms of reference. I think you probably want to nail that down or give some guidance today so that Island Health can go away, come back with things that you as a council have, the majority of you have agreed to, because otherwise I just think that leaves it a little bit challenging. If Councillor Grenz's suggestions are not the same as Councillor Beal's and are not the same as some other councillors, then what does Island Health do with that?
Right.
So that would just be my recommendation, is that what topic area or what guidance from council can you offer today so that they can go and provide that final version to you at the time of final adoption.
Right. So I would suggest hearing that anyways, that perhaps we defer this motion. Defer this motion and I'm sure that Island Health have noted anyways what concerns are. And then if nothing else, that after we even do final reading, you could re-present your concern after that time. It doesn't have to be now, a resolution is a resolution. So I believe that we could let the process continue on. We've given third reading here today and to the next reading to final adoption. And then if you're still unsatisfied with whatever information Island Health comes through with, then definitely accept a motion from the floor after we've done the final adoption. Okay, so I will ask for you to defer. Or
So
yes.
if I may, we just need a vote on deferral and then
Okay, right.
there's no debate after that.
Can you or withdraw?
You can withdraw with the permission of the seconder, which is yourself, Mr. Mayor.
Right. Let's just withdraw. Yeah, you'll go ahead to withdraw that motion, and I approve that as well. Second that. So done. It's good. Good. We need to get that level of assurance, and it's good that we talk it out here, and it's good that we talk it out in the public forum as well, so that our community understands that we're trying to get the best product. Thank you. So we have final adoption for the zoning and development amendment bylaw 2022, number 2000.137, map amendment to residential high density RHD-4 at 413 Wembley Road. Do I have a mover or seconder for this recommendation as attached? Moved by Councillor Beal, seconded by Councillor Martin. Any comments? All those in favor? Sorry, Councillor Gore, okay, thank you, okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure. May I call it again? All those in favor? Those opposed? That is not unanimous, that it passed with Councillor Gore opposing. Thank you. Another bylaw, we have final adoption for zoning and development amendment bylaw 2022, number 2000.139, map amendment to small lot residential SLR1 at 625-633 Pioneer Crescent. Do I move or seconder for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Beal, seconded by Councillor Wood. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? That carries, and opposed by Councillor Gore. Thank you. Any notices of motion come forth at this time, Council? Seeing none, I'll ask for liaison reports now. If I could ask for, we're going to go Councillor Gore first. Would you like to provide your liaison reports at this time?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I had the privilege to attend the AGM of the Beach Fest Society. The budget was presented as well as new board members were elected, some of them carrying on with their volunteer duties on the board. They're already working on a theme for next year. Can you believe that? A theme for next year for the sand sculpturing competition. Again, a huge thanks to the Beach Fest folks for volunteering their time and working so hard in organizing this wonderful event in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gore. Next up is Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yes, regarding, I've attended two library board meetings fairly recently. The first one, we looked at the budget and the budget was approved. It was adopted. And then there was a follow-up meeting, again, looking at the budget, and it has continued to be approved. People may have heard that the library has encountered some significant costs, certainly post-pandemic, during the pandemic and post-pandemic. And also since 2018, investments had really dropped quite a bit in value, so that the library has found itself in really difficult circumstances financially. So the budget does anticipate or will have quite an increase for our community and for all the communities that are part of the library. But it's a very necessary step in order to get back on track and recover from the situation that we've had. So as I said, there are a number of increased costs, including security and many others. And inflation, of course, hits the library like it hits any others. So I will be meeting with our Director of Finance tomorrow morning, actually, so that I can share more detailed information with her about that. But it will, in fact, it will affect all our citizens and elsewhere. Maybe a slightly positive takeaway is that the value of our library cards has been calculated on the low end at being worth about $700. So that's something to keep in mind. There are many, many services that one can access through the library, both online from home and also, of course, in person. So again, it is going to impact us. And but I'm meeting with the Director of Finance to go over those details tomorrow morning. And if you have any questions, go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Beal. Not a question, but a comment from the chair of the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board to thank you for your amazing participation and your engagement on the library board. You are a very valued committee member, and that was echoed by the chair. So thank you very much. It was noted. Thank you. The Federation of Canadian Municipalities, Councillor Wood, FCM, do you have a report at this time?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Last week, I was in Ottawa with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. I am not a director on the board, but I am an appointee for a committee. This was at no cost to the city of Parksville. It's through the UBCM Small Communities Travel Fund. During advocacy days from November 21 to 24, over 100 advocacy meetings took place between local government leaders and MPs across government and opposition benches, with a focus on municipal priorities that include housing and homelessness, investment in the next generation of community infrastructure, and the need for a new municipal growth framework. This call to bridge the gap between ambitious federal housing targets of 5.8 million new homes by 2030 and current infrastructure provisioning was underlined by new research commissioned by FCM. At a press conference announcing this research on November 23rd, President Pierce and the chair of FCM's Big City Mayors Caucus and Mayor of Halifax, Mike Savage, revealed that the average cost of municipal infrastructure to support each new home is in the range of $107,000. So it was a pleasure to be there. It was very interesting to see how Ottawa handles such a massive delegation of municipalities across Canada. And I think there was a very loud voice from municipalities across Canada that if we are to step up and build the housing that the federal government wants us to, we are going to need significant financial tools to build the infrastructure for us to be able to handle that housing. And that's all I have for the report. FCM.ca has a lot more information as well. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Councillor Wood. And we have Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had a presentation by Mabry today, and I don't think I can add a lot. When I put my name in for this, I knew I was going to be at a meeting on Friday, and they found out Thursday later in the day that they were going to be on this agenda today. However, I want to point out that there is a liaison with the schools, which is really, really exceptional in my mind with this organization, and a small thing with the Brant Festival, but for the future of the biosphere to be understood what it is. And so both high schools in Parksville and Qualicum will have has a liaison with Mabry, and they're working very hard to have the children involved and doing an excellent job. So I thought that was something to note with what else they're doing right now. They also want to have their next meeting here on March 8th. So I'm going to figure out how that works and use our boardroom here for March 8th for the next roundtable. There's 4 meetings a year and they want to have as much involved in the biosphere area as they can for a profile. And this is a key thing. When I joined this committee, I had no idea what it was. So now we're going to be learning more with this coming up. I think the Brant Festival is just a small thing, but it's a good thing because the public then will get an idea. So that's my one presentation here. And I have another one, the Oceanside Task Force on Homelessness. Here we are on December 4th with many unhoused citizens. I have had several recent emails asking me, what is Parksville doing? Unfortunately, I have had to confirm there is no place suitable at this time. I have asked our citizens to let me know if there is a place they think suitable so that I am accessible because I am the liaison. I just found out, this is very recent, through the SOS. There are many seniors living in cars who have never been homeless in their lives. They live right here. So this is happening right now, right last week. There needs to be a temporary place for them. If there is anyone on council staff or local Oceanside citizens that have a solution, please be in touch with me immediately. And your help is much appreciated. So this is what's happening right here in Parksville with our local seniors too. So, and they're not part of the homeless people that are on the street. It's just happened last week. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Any other liaison reports? Seeing none, thank you. Do I have a mover and seconder for the recommendation that pursuant to section 90.1C of the Community Charter, Council proceed to close meeting to consider an item regarding to labor situation? The mover and seconder, moved by Councillor Gore, seconded by Councillor Martin. All those in favor? That was unanimous. Thank you. Move to close meeting. Thank you.